An all-new 2020 starts right now.
I said he's right there. His eyes were shut, and he had spots of blood in different areas on his face.
She's accused of killing her boyfriend, a Boston police officer.
Enough's enough. We've been quiet for too long.
Now, Justin, a verdict for Karen Reed.
The defendant at the bar, guilty or not guilty? Not guilty.
This is the case the whole country couldn't stop watching. I hit him.
I hit him. I hit him. I said it with a question mark.
It's like that My Cousin Vinny moment. I shot the clerk versus I shot the clerk.
You'll see that this case carries him cancer, and his name is Michael Proctor.
And all new, and you're the first person from inside the investigation to speak out. The exclusive interview with the controversial trooper in the bullseye.
That's tough. I'm sorry.
One of the texts that you sent about Karen Reed is that you said hopefully she kills herself, telling his version for the first time on camera.
And it's like, wait, people need to know what has been going on. They need to know the truth.
It just feels like a kind of purgatory.
Now, her wait is over.
Mr. Jury, if you agreed upon a verdict, yes, on murder in the second degree, what say you? Is the defendant at the bar guilty or not guilty? Not guilty. 002, what say you? Is the defendant at the bar not guilty or guilty? Not guilty. Operating under the influence of liquor by operating a motor vehicle with a blood alcohol level of 0.08 or greater. So say you all?
Yeah, guilty.
Leaving the scene after accident resulting in death. Is the defendant not guilty or guilty? Not guilty.
And a stunning conclusion to the Karen Reed murder retrial, one of the most divisive cases in Massachusetts history.
Is no one has fought harder for justice for John O'Keefe than I have and my team.
A story unlike one I've ever seen that has many layers to it.
You've got an alleged conspiracy between an entire group of people. You've got forensic evidence. You've got intoxication. You have a hero police officer. John O'Keefe was raising 2 kids after his sister and her husband died. You have all the elements here for great public interest.
Prosecution, they say Karen Reed killed John O'Keefe.
Get drunk, she hit him, she left him to die. It's that simple.
The defense, they say Karen Reed is innocent.
There was no collision. She's the victim of a botched and biased and corrupted investigation that was never about the truth, folks.
Every single detail dissected. And at the center of it all, John O'Keefe. 2 trials, the first ending in a mistrial.
Come at me.
Tonight, you've heard about it for years, but now the whole story, the facts, the theories, and the verdict. It all begins in the middle of a record-breaking nor'easter.
Officer John O'Keefe is found dead out.
Diagnosed with cancer.
Johnny and Kristen were very, very close. That changed Johnny.
He was unbelievable, making sure that the kids were taken care of.
It's just a little over 5 months from the time that it was diagnosed till Kristen passed.
That was a huge loss. When she passed, he lost a part of himself.
And almost unbelievably, Steve passed away almost exactly 2 months after Kristen did.
In a very short amount of time, John loses his sister, his brother-in-law. He takes in their kids. How is he able to handle all of this?
He had a big support system.
And emotionally, how do you do it?
I guess he just knew he had to.
Johnny's niece was 6, and Johnny's nephew was 3. It wasn't even a question. Johnny was going to step in and raise those kids.
Karen Reed's story begins 35 miles south of Boston in the town of Mansfield. Karen, before all of this happened, tell me what life was like for you.
Routine. I took the morning train, literally, and just had a predictable, easy, fortunate life.
What did you do for a living?
I was in finance and asset management, what I always wanted to do. And then at night, I taught college juniors introduction to capital markets investing.
What happens next is at the crux of this case against Karen Reed. She says they headed to the Alberts home, getting slightly lost along the way, and Jennifer McCabe gets on the phone and gives John directions. When they arrive, Karen says John said he'd go in and check to make sure that the others had actually come over.
I pull at the foot of the driveway, it's snowing, John has no coat on, it's windy, so I drop him off, he goes up the driveway and approaches the side door. And as I see him approach the door, I look down at my phone and I just start browsing through, missed text messages and a couple emails. And I probably waited about a full minute and I look back at the door. So after about 3 minutes, I said, "Are you kidding me, John?"
She says she was having stomach issues and was annoyed that John didn't check back in with her, so she decides just to go back to John's house. Now, phone records indicate that over the next 5.5 hours, Karen calls or texts John 52 times, leaving 8 voicemails.
Now it's approaching 5 a.m. I called a few of his buddies, their wives. I knew something was wrong.
One of Karen's first calls is to Jennifer McCabe. Now, she's part of the group that had gone on to Brian Albert's house on Fairview Road.
They said, "Jen, John didn't come home."
The Massachusetts State Police come in. In this case, the state police completely take over the case because the Canton Police Department doesn't want even the appearance of a conflict of interest. The lead investigator will be Trooper Michael Proctor, whose misconduct will become part of the firestorm at the very center of this trial. This is the very first time that Proctor is speaking publicly in an interview about this case. He tells me about those moments when he and his colleague, Sergeant Yuri Buchanan, first head to the Canton Police Department. Does it change the nature of the investigation when you know that the deceased is a cop?
No, nor should it. There's a little more emotion involved.
That afternoon, Proctor and Buchanan interview Brian Albert, who told them John never came inside his house. And Proctor interviews Jennifer McCabe, who told him she had been on the phone trying to navigate John to the house, but she also says he never came in. Proctor also says Jen McCabe told him that when Karen found John's body, she said, "Could I have hit him?" Proctor and Buchanan head to the hospital now to see John's body. Proctor says at the hospital they realize O'Keefe had been found wearing only one shoe.
And the reason that became important, or was important at the time, during my training and experience, I've been to pedestrian strikes where both shoes are right at the point of impact.
So the body gets hit, but the shoes get left at the point of impact.
I've seen them where people get ripped completely out of their clothing, and their clothes are at the point of impact.
Trooper Proctor and Sergeant Buchanan now proceed to interview Karen at her parents' home. Her Lexus SUV is parked in the driveway, and they notice damage to the right rear taillight. In their official police report, they describe it as shattered.
It's a large housing unit, so a significant chunk is missing.
But it's not just John O'Keefe's friends and acquaintances inside that house that night that the defense is accusing of participating in this cover-up. They also set their sights on Massachusetts State Police Trooper Michael Proctor, the lead investigator in the case. The defense claims that Proctor, a lifelong resident of Canton, is close with the families inside that house that night, the Alberts and the McCabes, and therefore he's biased and prejudiced in their favor. These are claims the state completely rejects. Had you ever heard of Brian and Nicole Albert? Did that ring a bell?
So I heard of Brian Albert. Never met him until I interviewed him.
Now Proctor tells me he did know Brian Albert's brother, Chris, and wife, Julie, who'd been at the Waterfall Bar. But you knew Julie and Chris Albert?
Yes, through a distant relationship with my sister.
Did you know Jen McCabe?
No.
And the McCabes? No.
No, never met the McCabe's before, prior to this investigation.
Did you ever think at any point that you should recuse yourself from this case?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Wasn't too close to home, both figuratively and literally?
No, no. It wasn't a concern of mine. It wasn't a concern of DA Michael Morrissey. It wasn't a concern of my supervisors. I didn't know these people. There was loose connections with Julie and Chris.
The defense is questioning the physical evidence found at the scene at this point. Like, why wasn't Karen's taillight found at the scene right away? And the fact that there were even additional pieces of evidence found days, even weeks later? Because in pretrial hearings, they insinuate that Karen Reed's taillight fragments may have been planted there. And that cover-up theory is a recurring theme throughout the pretrial hearings for the defense, and the state says that's absolutely baseless. Did you plant evidence?
Absolutely not. And I'm laughing because it's such a ridiculous accusation. It's something I would never do. I've never done.
You know, most people would.
And there's no evidence of it.
We're talking about people in your community, your neighbors, who believe it. This is not strangers. This is people in Canton. Why do you think that is?
That's just the loud minority. The silent majority we've had an overwhelming amount of support. They're just not out there tweeting.
The prosecution strongly denies allegations of a cover-up, allegations of planting or mishandling evidence, and allegations that Michael Proctor has close ties to any of the witnesses in the case. Very early on, Alan Jackson told me that he could not understand why it was that every time that you went back to the scene, new evidence would materialize. He found that very suspicious.
Maybe you didn't read the weather report I provided in my reports.
Which indicated?
Over the next week to 2 weeks, temperatures range from 30 to 60 degrees with heavy rain. The snow melts at a rapid pace, and the more snow that melted, the more evidence unearthed itself.
Your stage. Is it damning evidence of a crime, or is it evidence of a conspiracy?
Karen's defense team rejects the prosecution's theory that her taillight was damaged in a collision involving John. They show ring video of Karen backing out of John's driveway around 5 a.m. and a moment when they say her car appears to bump John's parked vehicle. That's how they allege her taillight was damaged. The prosecution calls investigators who say no taillight was found in John's driveway later that day.
But the moment at that first trial that would forever change the case is when Michael Proctor takes the stand.
Trooper Michael Proctor, P-R-O-C-T-O-R.
In a dramatic turn, there's a separate investigation going on that may impact this trial.
There is a federal investigation surrounding this case, and there's a lot of mystery about this. The exact target of this investigation has never been disclosed, and it hasn't resulted in any charges. But as a part of the investigation, the feds subpoena Michael Proctor's personal cell phone data.
They gave all that information to the prosecution and to Karen Reed and her defense team.
On the stand, Michael Proctor reads texts that he wrote to both friends and colleagues from his personal cell phone while investigating John.
By Proctor was clear.
Trooper Proctor, you don't get to pick a suspect and then try to find evidence to support your choice, right?
Correct.
But in this case, it's exactly what you did, isn't it?
Absolutely not.
After 8 weeks of testimony, the jury cannot come to a decision, and the case ultimately ends in a mistrial.
So at this point, as we sit now after the mistrial, we are sitting at halftime, and we have got a second half to let play out.
Far from the closure anyone involved in this case had hoped for. Now, a new, even more explosive chapter is about to begin.
This is Bizarro World.
I am put on the stand in a murder trial. I don't know why I'm here. I have no connection to this case.
These are not my words. I'm not really comfortable reading these. Do I have to say these words out loud?
I've never seen anything like it.
This case carries a malignancy, and that cancer has a name. His name is Michael Proctor.
Does it?
The defense moves vigorously for a mistrial with prejudice.
This is the retrial of the century.
The defendant of are guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
I could not be standing here without these amazing supporters.
Tonight, a verdict in the Karen Reed, John O'Keefe murder trial.
We're talking about the retrial of the century.
What could be more egregious? What could be more misleading?
I think that she hit him. I think that she knew she hit him.
John O'Keefe was murdered, no question. He died at the hands of another person. It just wasn't Karen Reed.
What happened with the state's people inside the court?
The digital evidence is the centerpiece of the prosecution's case.
Versus the people outside. All new interviews, the embattled trooper speaking out for the first time.
They don't care what the evidence is. They are just all in on this theory that Karen Reed was framed.
No one has fought harder for justice for John O'Keefe than I have.
So this is the beginning of the second trial. Right now you can see Karen Reed in the back.
This retrial, more people watching, more people interested, and the opinions, oh my goodness.
In Massachusetts, defendant Karen Reed back for round 2.
She's accused of running down her boyfriend in her SUV, a Boston police officer.
We're loaded for bear, ready to get the show on the road.
9 months after a deadlocked jury and mistrial, Karen Reed is being tried again on all 3 original charges, including that second-degree murder charge.
Karen, you feel more confident in this trial than the last one?
I'm always confident in my team.
Commonwealth versus Karen Reed.
Whenever you have a retrial, there are going to be changes. It doesn't make any sense to use the same strategy as the first trial because it's clear the jury didn't buy parts of your story.
So it's now time for the opening statements. Mr. Brennan.
Some of the storytellers will also change. Original lead prosecutor Adam Lally is out, and Hank Brennan is in.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Brennan once defended mobster Whitey Bulger, so he is no stranger to a high-profile case.
Hank Brennan understands what the defense is trying to do, understands what the defense wants the prosecution to do.
I simply ask you to follow the evidence, follow the science.
The prosecution's story this time is more focused, more vivid.
Put her foot on the gas pedal and began to press, not 25%, not 50%, up to 75% acceleration.
In opening statements, both sides promise something new.
A cell phone is an amazing piece of technology.
For the prosecution, the new comes in the form of digital evidence.
And there'll be some remarkable data that you will use in this case to find the truth.
Hank Brennan wants this jury focused on the evidence coming from John O'Keefe's phone, the evidence coming from Karen Reed's SUV, evidence that he says does not have bias.
If digital forensics does not connect with the jury, I don't see how the prosecution can win.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson.
In their opening statements, the defense takes a scientific approach.
Ladies and gentlemen, the scientific evidence and the medical evidence will establish that John O'Keefe had to be injured somewhere else, somewhere warmer, and his body had to have been moved out into the cold.
Understanding exactly what happened that night, to me, is a very complicated question.
And the defense never misses an opportunity to mention the name Michael Proctor, the lead investigator on this case.
This case carries a malignancy, a cancer that cannot be cut out, a cancer that cannot be cured. And that cancer has a name. And his name is Michael Proctor.
It is not hard to conclude that Michael Proctor's words provided the jury with reasonable doubt in the first trial.
And it doesn't take the prosecution very long to remind the jury of 3 words.
She said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
I said, I hit him. It was preceded by a did and proceeded by a question mark. So did I say the 3 words? I hit him? Yes. Did I hit him?
So you're saying that the entire time it was in a question mark?
Yes.
It's like that my cousin Vinny moment. I shot the clerk versus I shot the clerk. So I'm wondering if this jury will have that same interpretation.
And the prosecution adds something that was lacking in the first trial.
Commonwealth calls Peggy O'Keefe.
Emotion. Peggy O'Keefe testifying about the phone call that every mother dreads.
Yeah, she said John was found in a snowbank. And I didn't understand, which I said, what do you mean found in a snowbank? She said, they found him in the snow. They don't know what happened.
She was a very powerful witness, not just in what she said, but how she said it. It really makes the jury understand that, a man, a real person is gone.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning.
Muffle call Ian Whiffen.
Okay.
Ian Whiffen is a digital forensics examiner, and he analyzed the contents of John O'Keefe's phone for the prosecution. And he was able to track the movement of the phone as it left the bar and then drove to Fairview Road.
Do you have an opinion where John O'Keefe's cell phone was?
My opinion is that the device never moved far away from the flagpole.
It tells a story of a man who's in a car, a man who steps out of a car, and a man who never goes inside.
According to Whiffen, the circles on this map indicate O'Keefe's general location on the property. Based on his cell phone data, the smaller the circle, the more accurate the information. But defense attorney Robert Alessi was focused on the larger circles.
The phone of John O'Keefe could be anywhere within the largest white circle, correct?
Correct.
And therefore, the phone could be in the house, correct?
Based on the low accuracy information, yes.
The answer is yes.
Yes.
I came into this case, I thought it was black and white. You know, digital evidence is what it is. But what we are learning through this case is that it's a matter of interpretation.
With the court's permission, could I begin with clip 7?
Yes. Maybe more than a few sips at the waterfall.
And 4 drinks you felt fine to drive?
Yep.
Numerous clips of Reed's televised interviews have been played by the prosecution throughout the trial.
And I don't care what your viewpoint is of Karen Reed, when you listen to them and you watch these clips, there is no way you can tell me they make her look good.
My name is Yuri Buchanan.
Yuri Buchanan was former Trooper Michael Proctor's supervisor. The prosecution needs him to minimize Proctor's involvement in the case.
In the cases where you're assigned, do you investigate the case alone?
Never. It's always a team effort.
Buchanan did everything he could to downplay Proctor. Like, oh, Trooper who? He's one of many here, and that's just not true.
At the same time, Buchanan, who was disciplined after it was revealed he was in the group chat where Proctor was sending inappropriate text messages, must also defend the work of Proctor.
Do you think this case was handled with honor and integrity by Michael Proctor, Sergeant?
The investigation was handled with integrity by Michael Proctor.
The Commonwealth highlights the movement of Reed's vehicle while in front of the Fairview home. Their expert reviewed the onboard computer system of the Lexus, which tracks the SUV's motion.
So again, the initial forward motion is 34 feet, and then backing up an additional 53 feet.
And finally, regarding this part of your analysis, do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of engineering certainty as to whether the defendant's Lexus was decelerating, accelerating, or remaining the same?
It was accelerating at 74% throttle.
Next, Dr. Judson Welcher provides something the prosecution did not have at the first trial: video. The accident reconstruction he puts together is a series of slides and videos which he claims explain how an impact could have occurred.
Let's have the car drive into me. I did this at very low speeds. This is from a camera that we have pointing down at it. But even a 2-mile-an-hour impact redirects me back and causes me to rotate and take a step.
Not every judge would allow this type of evidence. So that's a win for the prosecution to actually get these videos in front of the jury.
I mean, with a reasonable degree of scientific certainty, that is what happened.
This is a real expert. And the question now is his opinion versus the opinion of the experts for the defense. Who will the jury trust?
But if the defendant is worried, she's not showing it.
How would you sum up the prosecution's case?
One word.
Unjust.
The prosecution rests without ever calling Michael Proctor to the stand. And while the jury will not get to hear from him, you will. He's sitting down exclusively with 2020.
The murder mystery just outside of Boston sparking some explosive accusations against law enforcement.
Do you think Proctor will testify, Karen?
I don't believe so.
Can't get any worse.
The lead investigator on this case, Michael Proctor, did not take the stand this time around. His highly offensive text messages about Karen Reed, which were obtained from his personal cell phone during a federal investigation, They rocked that first trial.
She's a whack job. Yes, she's a babe. Weird Fall River accent, though. No ass. No nude so far. She's gross.
During the retrial, the defense once again accuses him of running a biased investigation.
You'll learn there's not a single part of this case, folks, not a single part, that he didn't touch, that he didn't direct, that he didn't orchestrate personally. Michael Proctor went far beyond just insulting Karen Reed. He dehumanized this woman.
And while the prosecution condemns Proctor's text messages, they stand firmly by the investigation.
There's not one piece of evidence, not one, that we can look at and say, this was tampered with. This was planted. This was distorted.
Within hours of that first trial ending, Michael Proctor was relieved of duty by the Massachusetts State Police. He was later fired. He sat down for an exclusive interview with us and addressed those text messages, some of which were sent to personal contacts outside of law enforcement.
Who are you writing to?
My good buddies that I've been friends with since first grade. Canton hasn't had a homicide in about 20 years. So they're naturally interested. Just regrettable messages. But in all the content and the messages, what you don't see is a conspiracy.
What do you see?
I see someone who's caught up in the moment of investigating, a fellow police officer and just saying inappropriate things.
Can you see why people called you sexist and misogynist?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I could 100% understand why.
As those text messages are entered into evidence, prosecutors begin to address the defense's claims of bias, and they ask Proctor about the integrity of his investigation when he takes the stand in the first trial.
What, if any, impact did that have as far as your investigation was concerned?
That you sent about Karen Reed is that you said hopefully she kills herself. You texted this to your sister. And that seems incredibly unprofessional for a homicide investigator speaking about his suspect.
It was made in jest. It's a figure of speech. Hopefully she kills herself like that. Not literally.
That's a figure of speech?
Yes.
Do you use that commonly?
Yes. Not commonly, but it's a figure of speech I made in jest. It wasn't literally, I hope she kills herself.
At what point did you develop such strong negative feelings about Karen Reed that you would say things like, hopefully she kills herself, or calling her the C word?
Those feelings developed as the case went on.
I mean, can you see how people might think, he was caught in this instance speaking about a suspect in this way. Maybe it's happened in other cases as well.
I 100% understand why people would think that. But when you have, a fellow police officer around my age, 2 kids of his own, it generates an emotion. And I expressed those emotions in a negative way, which I shouldn't have. I shouldn't even, been texting my friends anything.
Some of his texts were with colleagues, including 2 superiors.
When we first got into her phone, the number one thing I wanted to review was location data, text messages. And when we got into the phone, I texted the guys at work, our work chain, that joke. No nude so far, guys.
You're talking about completely inappropriate text messages that show a complete bias in the investigation. And Proctor is sending these to his supervisors. And he's not being admonished for it. What's going on here? Is this business as usual? Is this being adopted and accepted by other members of law enforcement?
Does the bias of one investigator or the exhibited bias, does that compromise an entire investigation? No. But could that bias have led to additional mistakes? That's the jury's job to figure out.
Can you see how the impropriety of the text messages opens the door for the defense's allegations that there was some sort of conspiracy and cover-up here?
There's no evidence because it didn't happen. I spent 2 days on the stand. That was Alan Jackson's opportunity to bring that up and question me on it.
Specifically asking you whether you planted evidence.
Yeah, not one question.
Boston has a history of police and law enforcement corruption.
Yeah, that I agree with. Not in this case. Didn't happen here.
So why would it be so unreasonable for people to think, well, it's happened elsewhere and recently in Boston, why couldn't it happen in Canton?
They believe that the state police, multiple units within the state police, the Canton Police Department, about a dozen civilians are all in this conspiracy to frame a woman we don't know. And over the last 2.5, 3 years, not one person has said, wait a minute, I'm not going down for this. Here's what really happened.
You saw the lengths to which some police officers will go to protect their own at the expense of the rest of us, at the expense of Karen Reed.
Is there any part of the actual investigation that you would do over?
Because it's blowing up into this crazy so-called conspiracy, maybe I could have avoided it by, looking at other people's cars just to say we did it. There's some witnesses maybe we could have interviewed a little sooner, but overall, myself and every detective in that office worked this case like we always do, and so I wouldn't change anything.
Nothing?
No.
But things are about to change for Michael Proctor.
I just remember dropping on my knees and laying on my lawn, like crying.
Just about supporting John's family and getting justice for John.
Michael Proctor.
Michael Proctor.
Although Michael Proctor's name continues to reverberate throughout Karen Reed's retrial, Proctor himself retreats from the public eye.
Trooper Michael Proctor is relieved of duty effective immediately.
Suspended without pay.
Proctor is suspended without pay pending an internal investigation into his conduct.
I just remember dropping on my knees and laying on my lawn, like crying. I couldn't even talk. I was complete hysterics. And I just remember my mother being like, what? And I kind of gathered myself and I'm like, they relieved me of duty.
What was it like handing over your badge, your gun, your cruiser?
What really got me was my union rep. He had to come over to my house and pick up all my uniforms. And the one time I broke down was putting my Class A uniform. You go through a 6-month academy and you're very proud to put that uniform on. That was tough.
In March, the State Police Trial Board dishonorably discharges Michael Proctor on 2 charges, including unsatisfactory performance related to state police conduct standards.
I don't know any trooper that's been punished for personal text messages on their personal phone, let alone fired.
He's appealing the trial board's decision. A supervisor on one of Proctor's text chains is also disciplined for failure to counsel a subordinate during an investigation, and he loses 5 vacation days. The Massachusetts State Police say their disciplinary action is determined on a case-by-case basis.
People in every job do and say stupid things. They're human beings, they make mistakes, but we have to expect a higher degree of professionalism from a lead investigator in a case like this.
With the second trial underway, public fascination accelerates and the trial takes on a life of its own.
The public interest has actually grown for the retrial. First time around, people heard about the case. Second time around, people know the case.
Social media is having a field day.
Karen Reed. I am just obsessed with this case.
Birthday shout-outs to Karen. There are dinner giveaways for Karen Reed's Defense Fund.
So I'm looking very forward to meeting some of you in person, to sharing a nice, intimate dinner with you.
And on the free Karen Reed page, it's almost like a reality show with Chef Alan Jackson behind the scenes serving up meals for Reed and her team.
It's a reflection of the modern age.
For Karen Reed, there's supporters and, the court of public opinion support.
But when you look at it from the perspective of the victim's family, especially those 2 children that were relying on him for their care, the idea that there are raffles and giveaways, it's arguably pretty grotesque.
She's the happiest murder defendant in America.
There's a long way to go with this second trial. How does that feel?
We feel like we have a simplified strategy that the evidence will show exactly what happened. I think that she hit him. I think that she knew she hit him. I don't think that she knew how badly he was injured. My biggest concern about the second trial is how do you field a objective 12-person panel type of media exposure that's already been given?
I feel great.
Are we going to be able to get a fair shake?
And there are these billboards urging locals to remember John, which can be seen across the Boston area.
Johnny's friends and family, they got together and they wanted to remember Johnny. The goal was to ensure that the public sentiment, that folks understood what void was created from Johnny's murder. It's not just about the defendant, it should be about the victim.
Amidst everything in the courtroom, John O'Keefe's friends and family remember the guy who loved sports and the uncle who had silly treasured moments at home with the kids, And while Reed's team prepares to present the defense in the second trial, John O'Keefe's family and friends are in court every day, only feet away from Reed.
I think the hardest part is having to see John's mother sit that close to Karen and watching her laugh, giggle, smirk.
There's an undertone of anxiety, but I think that there's a general presence of hope that we're going to find justice.
And when we come back, Karen Reed's team fights back.
There was not a single eyewitness to a collision. There was not even a single eyewitness to a backing event.
Neither side wants to walk out of that courtroom losing.
I'm anxious to see how they're going to start. Anxious, yes.
Emotions run the gamut as O'Keefe supporters and Karen Reed's legal team enter the courthouse in Dedham.
How you feeling today, Karen?
Any thoughts on today? I feel great.
Go get him!
It's day 24 of the retrial, and it's the defense's turn to present their case. Alan Jackson begins by asking for a mistrial.
There was no eyewitness presented. There was no video evidence, no audio evidence, no evidence in the form of physical evidence at the scene by searches that were done by officers on the morning of January 29th, 2022.
999 times out of 1,000, the defense loses that motion. But what I like to listen to is the arguments that are made, because it sort of gives you a little bit of a preview of what the closing arguments will be.
They did not prove that there was actually a collision.
Jackson says the state experts may have proven the SUV went backwards, but they have not proven that it was a collision connected to that backing maneuver.
But Judge Beverly Cannoni isn't buying it.
Motion is denied as to all three of them.
You can't blame the defense for trying, but it would be highly unusual for a judge to grant any mistrial requests at this point in the trial.
The defense calls a longtime friend of Michael Proctor to the stand, and he confirms he was on a text chain with Proctor and other friends when the former trooper sent his now infamous texts.
Good morning, sir. Would you please state your name?
Jonathan Diamandis.
Those text messages were entered into evidence, and the defense quickly wrapped up its questioning.
I have no further questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The prosecution says not so fast. They actually want the text read aloud, and then an objection is raised in the courtroom from the witness.
Could you read all of them, please?
These are not my words. I'm not really comfortable reading these. Do I have to say these words out loud?
A compromise is reached.
I don't want you to say words that are not yours. I'll say the words, and I'm going to ask you if I'm reading accurately. Is that better?
Yes.
When prosecutors put bad evidence in front of a jury, they're just getting in front of it. They want to be the ones to say, okay, we're going to put this in front of the jury. We're not hiding it from you.
Next up is former Canton police officer Kelly Dever, who wins the award for Most Hostile Witness.
Miss Dever, do you want to be here today?
I have no relation to this case, so...
I didn't ask you that. I asked you if you want to be here today.
Objection. This isn't direct.
So it's your witness.
I understand.
She can... No comments, just questions. Not, I understand that.
Dever once made statements to federal authorities about the Reed case, but later recanted, claiming it was false memory.
Sometimes you have to call a witness who you don't get along with, who you know is not for your side, because they have information that's going to help you. Prosecutors aren't going to call her, so Alan Jackson and the defense had to call her.
Do you want to be here today, ma'am?
I am put on the stand in a murder trial. I don't know why I'm here. I have no connection to this case.
You have no idea why you're here?
You've never talked to me. Nobody on the fence seems to talk to me since prior to the first trial. So I don't have any idea why I'm here.
No clue whatsoever, as you sit here, why you might have been called to the stand.
No.
Whatever her value was to the defense was lost in the sea of hostility by the witness.
That's all I have.
The defense would later call forensic expert Dr. Marie Russell to the stand.
All right, Mr. Alessi, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning.
Good morning.
And she testifies about the marks on John O'Keefe's arm.
Can you determine that those are from a dog?
I believe they are, yes.
Her credentials are real. I mean, she's done the work. She has treated people who have been bitten by dogs through the years, but she's not an experienced expert witness. So when you see her on the stand, she's not the strongest of experts because she's not used to doing this.
There is no recognized standard anywhere for methodology on how to identify a dog bite wound, is there?
There is no published standard from an organization that I am aware of.
When you considered...
Brennan asks the doctor if her opinion on the case changed after she watched Reed's televised interviews. The doctor said no.
Many people suffer from what's called an acute grief reaction. It's very common. And they do things that seem to be irrational. They ramble. They act bizarrely.
Does this happen moments after a stressful event?
Oh, yes.
Does it happen months later when you go on 20/20 or Nightline?
I've never seen that situation.
Yeah, no.
It gave him an opportunity to point out to the jury that they'd been watching these interviews inside the courtroom, these clips. And these clips are months and months after the death of John O'Keefe. So I think in that moment, Hank Brennan did a nice job of scoring some points and bringing some credibility to his side and perhaps undermining the credibility of Dr. Russell.
Next up for the defense is Brian Lucky Lochran. Now, he's the snowplow operator who came down Fairview Road during the storm, and his value to the defense is not what he saw, it's what he didn't see.
How much of the front lawn could you see?
I could see all the way to the front door.
What was on the ground on the Alberts lawn at that point in the area of the flagpole?
Nothing.
Did you see a 6'1", 216-pound man lying on that lawn?
No.
The prosecution attributes that to Lucky simply being too busy dealing with the task at hand.
When you plowed that night, did you have any reason to look for somebody who was lying on the side of a yard?
No.
Then the defense's most important witness. Andrew Rentschler is a biomechanical engineer, and his company conducted a series of tests. And based on these tests, Rentschler offers a different opinion as to whether John O'Keefe was even struck by a vehicle at all.
I did, yes. And what is that opinion?
My opinion is that the evidence is inconsistent with Mr. O'Keefe being struck on the right arm by the SUV.
Things get testy during cross-examination.
When you looked at all the tests you did, the plastic broke differently in each and every case, every experiment, didn't it?
Sure, it's broken like that, and I've never seen a case where you get these types of abrasions.
Well, I didn't ask you that. Is that funny?
No, it's not funny.
Okay.
So I'm going to strike the comment. Next question.
Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan also suggests that Rentschler is cozy with the defense.
Did you have any bias for you?
Any bias?
Bias, yes.
What do you mean? Did I have any bias?
Well, after you testified, where did you go?
Well, I was waiting for my ride, and to get back to the airport, they had to take other people, and so they were having a lunch afterwards, and they said, come have a sandwich, and then your ride will take you to the airport. So I went, and I had a ham sandwich.
And how long were you at the table eating your ham sandwich?
I honestly don't know. 10 minutes? How long does it take you to eat a ham sandwich? 10 minutes?
After an exhaustive 33-day trial, both sides deliver their closing arguments.
Find Karen Reed not guilty, not guilty, not guilty.
She was drunk, she hit him, and she left him to die.
All rise for the court, please.
So we'll start with the defendant's closing. Mr. Jackson?
There was no collision. There was no collision. There was no collision. This case was corrupted from the start by biases, conflicts, and personal loyalties. At the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, can you trust the Commonwealth's case? They failed to provide you with a truthful representation. They failed to prove the essence of their case, that John was even hit by a car to begin with. Find Karen Reed, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty. Thank you.
On January 29, 2022, John O'Keefe had just been hit by Karen Reed, and he lay on the ground dying, and he needed help. She made a choice. She didn't call 911. She didn't run to his aid. She made a decision. She drove away. She left him alone to die. He is not an it. John O'Keefe is not a body. John O'Keefe is not a buffalo on a prairie. John O'Keefe was a person, and he was murdered by Karen Reed.
Talk about the closings. How do you feel they went? I mean, for your side?
I don't think mine could have gone better.
And what do you want to
That's
say?
all I'll say.
This has been a long 3 years, around 3 years. So we're all kind of on pins and needles, just waiting.
As the jury continues to deliberate, the crowds outside the courthouse continue to grow.
And you can see the Karen Reed supporters wearing their pink outside the courthouse. Right now, there are Karen Reed supporters pouring into the street. They're getting closer. We are inches away from a verdict.
Mr. Foreman, members of the jury, have you agreed upon a verdict?
Yes.
Mr. Foreman, on murder in the second degree, what say you? Is the defendant at the bar guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
002, what say you? Is the defendant at the bar not guilty or guilty?
Not guilty.
Specifically number 5, operating under the influence of liquor. So say you, Mr. Foreman?
Guilty.
Leaving the scene after accident resulting in death. Defendant not guilty or guilty?
Not guilty.
So say you, Mr. Foreman? So say you all?
I couldn't actually hear the verdict because there was so much noise. And when the first part of that verdict was read, there was absolute jubilation.
As that not guilty verdict comes in, a member of Karen Reed's defense team is in tears and you can see Karen's hands trembling.
Right now you can hear the cheers of the crowd right there. Alan Jackson, Karen Reed in that light blue suit emerging from the courthouse. They're waving to the crowd. They're making that hand gesture and sign language of love to their supporters. You can see that confetti exploding right there. Karen Reed's legal team and Karen Reed in the powder blue suit just to the right. We're going to hear Karen right now.
I just want to say 2 things. Number 1 is I could not be standing here without these amazing supporters who have supported me and my team financially and, more importantly, emotionally for almost 4 years. And the second thing I want to say is no one has fought harder for justice for John O'Keefe than I have. Just thank you to my supporters. They pulled us through on their backs. Thank you.
And not seen in the swirl of confetti and this crowd here is the family and friends of Officer John O'Keefe. Throughout this over 3-year-long ordeal, they have remained stoic and reserved and dignified. And tonight they have to somehow cope with both losing their son and this trial. Karen Reed may not have been convicted of murder, but she is not out of the legal woods yet. This has been the trial of a decade, over 3 years in the making. But the saga is not over for Karen Reed. Karen Reed's sentence for OUI, basically driving under the influence, earned her a year of probation, and the family of John O'Keefe has already filed a wrongful death suit against her after that mistrial in 2024. Despite the heartbreak of this verdict for the O'Keefe family, they continue to try to find ways to honor John in their everyday lives.
John's badge number is 2490. So
the numerical symbol of finding justice for him.
Justice for JJ! Justice for JJ!
The last picture you took together, was that at opening day?
Yeah, it was an opening day shot at Lansdowne. Welcome to opening day. It's one of the few pictures we took. We didn't take a whole lot of pictures.
But you're both beaming in that picture.
Yeah, we had a good day. We had a very good day.
And this year, you went with John's nephew.
I did. We've tried to keep that tradition alive. We've taken Johnny's nephew to 3 of the last 4 opening days.
What has that been like?
Frankly, it's been genuinely enjoyable. He happens to be a great kid. I've known him since he was really little. My relationship with Johnny's nephew is very important to me. To me, it's just about maintaining that connection and maintaining tradition, and tradition was important for Johnny. Every year, we go to Johnny's gravesite. So Johnny's brother, Johnny's closest friends from the Boston Police Force. It's a way for family and friends to get together and honor him as a community.
people keep asking, what legacy he left behind, and I would say a legacy of honor. He was an honorable man. He was a good man. Can't really say enough good things about John.
I should miss him.
David, this is the end of a very long, emotional journey for so many in that community and beyond.
No question about that. For Karen Reed tonight, relief. And for John O'Keefe's family, major disappointment. We should point out, though, that the civil suit against her is still ongoing. That's our program for tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm David Muir.
And I'm Deborah Roberts. From all of us here at 2020 and ABC News, good night.
Chad, Lori, can I ask you a couple of questions? Can I ask you where the kids are? Grandparents are very worried about your kids.
Lori, everybody wants to know.
What happened to JJ?
Are the kids okay?
Just answer the question.
We loved Lori. I'll tell you that right now.
She was a good mom.
She was a wonderful mom.
Loving, doting, caring mom.
I have a wonderful husband who is watching our two beautiful children.
Lori has 5 marriages in all.
Guard, for people's questions.
With Lori silent, we reached out to her family to see if they could shed any light on her behavior or the whereabouts of her kids. They agreed to sit down with us early on in the investigation. At the time, they painted a radically different picture than the one the public was seeing.
Take 2.
Well, I'm Janice Cox, and I'm Lori's mother. And I am very much appreciative of an opportunity to say what I know to be true about Lori. She's beautiful, she's sweet, she's kind, she's generous to a fault. Lori and Summer both took dance, and they both ended up being cheerleaders. They both love sports. They both played on the softball team that I coached, our church softball team, for 3 years. Lori was the pitcher and would never let me take her out. It was really sad. She became a hairstylist because she loves making people look more beautiful. But the most important thing to me is the kind of mother she is, the way she dedicated herself to her children.
I realize that it looks bad, but I know Lori very well, and I know she would not harm her children or anyone's children.
I know Lori, and I know Lori's done everything she can to protect her kids.
When I first started talking to her, the first thing she said to me was, Mom, you know me. You know I'm taking care of my kids.
So the way the family describes it, they describe this as a very close-knit unit, but there is something really weird. They weren't at the wedding because they didn't even know there was a wedding.
I don't think I knew that Lori married Chad Daybell until I saw it on TV.
To fully understand Lori, I think it helps to go back in time to see how her past relationships may have played a role in her current situation.
In the late 1980s, Lori's a high school cheerleader in Rialto, California. She's popular, she's smart, she comes from a devout Mormon family. In 1992, she marries her high school sweetheart.
He wasn't my favorite, and we didn't have a close relationship. She left home when she was 18, and we asked Lori to wait a year, but they just went off. Oh, we didn't go to the wedding.
There was soon a second marriage, and it's out of this marriage Lori's first child, Colby, is born.
We weren't in favor of him, even though he was Colby's father.
Hoping the third time is the charm, Lori marries again, this time to Joseph Ryan.
You know, they caught people's attention because they were beautiful, they were magnanimous, they were both extroverts, they were, you know, just kind of larger than life.
One reason Lori had wanted to get married was to have another baby. So she got pregnant with Tylee right away, and she was really excited about having Tylee.
It's during this time Lori makes an appearance on the game show Wheel of Fortune.
Gopher, Doc, Isaac, and Captain Steubing.
Yeah! And in that clip, Lori describes married life in glowing terms.
I have a wonderful husband, Joseph, at home, who is watching our two beautiful children, Colby, who's 7, and Tylee, who is 1.
Yeah, what do you guys like to do for fun?
We like to play all kinds of sports on our 3 acres.
Okay, sounds like you have a nice life there.
We do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And here they are, your contestants for Mrs. Texas 2004. Contestant number 4, Lori Ryan.
Lori does not lack for confidence. She was bold enough to get up on stage at a Texas beauty pageant.
She is Mrs. Hayes County. Her husband's name is Joseph. They've been married for 3.5 years, and they have 2 children.
In 2004, Lori was recruited to do the pageant, and she worked really hard to get in perfect shape.
I don't know really what prompted her to want to do the pageant, other than it gave her kind of an outlet.
And she thought that might help her marriage at the time. Lori does have stage presence. She's very poised. She did everything beautifully.
Tell us who you are. What makes you tick?
Being a good mom is very important to me, and a good wife, and a good worker, and being all those things together is not easy. So I'm basically a ticking time bomb.
Joseph Ryan appears to have been a bit of a ticking time bomb himself.
I did witness him be physically abusive toward Colby.
He was physically abusive from the very get-go.
Now that Wheel of Fortune clip we saw Lori in becomes a lot more interesting because we're able to see how she can portray this illusion of happiness even when her marriage is falling apart.
The marriage implodes under allegations that Joe Ryan abused both children. Those allegations were investigated but never substantiated. This custody battle drags on for years.
How you guys doing?
Enter Alex Cox, Lori's brother.
Tell me what your impressions of Alex were when you met him.
My impressions of Alex was that he was a little off and lacked social skills, or just maybe didn't really connect with people.
I think that's all.
What did he tell you about Lori's husband, Joseph Ryan, Tylee's dad?
He had told me that there had been some allegations of abuse, and that he kind of took it upon himself to protect Tylee and Colby, and that he had attempted to take Joe's life.
Alex got into it with Joe Ryan in a parking lot and assaulted Ryan with a taser in the heart.
Alex winds up serving time for aggravated assault. It's another failed marriage for Lori. Enter Charles Vallow, a man who will eventually become husband number 4.
It's interesting to note Lori's early marriages didn't last very long, but it didn't sour her on the institution of marriage either.
I don't know why Lori's been married so many times. I think she has always worn her heart on her sleeve. She thinks that she is trying to help people when she marries them.
Can Charles make Lori happy? Can anyone make this mother of two happy?
It's like the old adage, mama ain't happy, nobody's happy.
I didn't have any other choice. That's what he told me. I said, "How are you feeling?" He said, "Mom, I feel terrible, but I'd do anything to protect Lori and Tylee."
Charles had never been violent with anybody, so you kind of start getting a bigger picture of this just doesn't feel right.
Both of us have driven people home after interviews, and this would be at the top of bizarre for me, the whole car ride.
The odd part about it was just the complete lack of emotion. It was a very nonchalant, Lori had a big smile on her face. A case like this isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. The case is just beginning.
In a word, detectives find all of this odd, but odd is not a felony.
Now, being weird and not making sense is going to make the investigation continue.
But they better hurry because Lori is off to Idaho to land husband number 5.
Charles knew his...
It's really interesting when she moves to Rexburg because Chad is married to someone else.
Facebook photos show Chad and Tammy as a happy couple.
Chad and Tammy moved here about 5 or 6 years ago with their family.
In his memoir, Living on the Edge of Heaven, Chad Daybell describes being called to Rexburg. He writes, "A voice said, moving to Rexburg will be a tremendous blessing on your children and your grandchildren."
What I remember of them is a perfect couple. Good mom, good dad, good kids.
Tammy is a real spitfire, though. She had a mind of her own, and she was not one that was easily walked on.
Chad Daybell and I served as missionaries for the LDS Church back in the late 80s. Chad was the most humble missionary that I ever knew.
Well, Lori and Chad have been known to attend LDS services. Chad has also written books and lectured on his own personal beliefs, which are distinct from LDS theology.
Chad was the author of these doomsday books that had a peculiar prophecy about the end of the world and how people should prepare for that.
His books are all about the end of times and dying. His visions deal with dying. When Chad lived in Springville, Utah, he was a grave digger.
Chad was the cemetery sexton before he resigned.
A few years ago, Chad wrote his autobiography, and it gives you a glimpse of the way this guy thinks and what he believes.
In his memoir, Chad Daybell writes, "I don't fictionalize any of the events portrayed. My torn veil allows information to be downloaded into my brain from the other side. The scenes I am shown are real events that will happen."
He was gathering people to Rexburg. They were moving there because Chad Daybell said, "This is where you need to be."
We don't yet know the full size of this group, but what we do know is that at the very least, Lori Vallow and her family relocated to this area.
At first,
I'm a man of truth, and I remember having that uncomfortable, question that I go to him with, did you take a shot at Brandon? And he said no. He joked about it. He's a comedian, and he said, "Melanie, me in a recognizable car with, right across the street, and I'm a great shot." It didn't add up.
One thing Alex was not was a liar. Alex was very honest, and Alex would always say, if you called him on something or asked him if he did something, he immediately owned up to everything he did wrong.
Police say there's no denying that a bullet was in fact lodged in Brandon's vehicle. But why would anyone want to kill him? In court filings, Brandon says he can think of a million reasons.
Brandon believed that if there was a motive to kill him, it would have been for $1 million life insurance policy that he had, which Melanie would have been the beneficiary.
It's just not true. It's just a fight of trying to make me look bad and accuse me of things I haven't done.
Police haven't announced one way or the other who was the shooter that night. And Melanie denies having anything to do with the shooting and has not been charged.
Brandon knows me and knows I wouldn't do that.
It did start out for me as a very specific kind of assignment to find 2 people and a vehicle. And then realized what I was seeing was this small group of people in Arizona start moving to Idaho.
And in Idaho, there will be another spouse on the wrong end of a gun. And a fateful call between Lori and Chad.
Hello? Roger call. Yeah.
This is an active, ongoing case.
Lori, please start cooperating with the police.
If you have any information, we want both of the children back.
It relates to the beliefs that Lori and that Chad hold as part of this new church called the Church of the Firstborn.
According to police, Chad and Lori had spoken to others about dark spirits, even zombies, and what seems a bizarre mission.
Their mission is to rid the world of zombies.
Police are in the process of re-examining everyone and everything with a connection to Chad.
Our crews here at the cemetery were here at 6:30 in the morning.
Even exhuming Chad's dead wife. The whole country became obsessed with this case. Where were JJ and Tyler?
We all wanted to talk to Chad and Lori.
Can I ask you where the kids are?
Are the kids okay?
No comment.
It's a simple question. Just answer the question.
Police end up looking on Chad's property.
What did they find? They gridded off these areas, and they start peeling away layers.
Are you okay? They're searching the property.
And we all know what that search would reveal. Who was responsible?
One morning, you're going to wake up and say, oh my God, what have I done?
Rexburg is a beautiful, safe place. As safe as any city built near an old volcano. And its motto is America's family community. And this is where Chad and his wife Tammy are raising their family. And then Lori came to town. Maybe an eruption was inevitable.
Chad's wife, Tammy Daybell, returns home after a long day at work, and this 49-year-old librarian is taking stuff out of the back of the car when trouble comes up from behind. Tammy would later post on her Facebook page, a guy with a ski mask was suddenly standing by the back of my car with a paintball gun. He shot at me several times, although I don't think it was loaded. I yelled for Chad, and he ran off around the back of my house. I have no idea what his motive was, and we never spoke, even after I asked him several times what he thought he was doing. So Tammy Daybell stares down the barrel of a gun and manages to survive. But just 10 days later, she winds up dead. The obituary says that she passes away due to natural causes, but at the time, she's actually training for a marathon.
It's hard to accept her death. I don't believe it.
Husband Chad declines an autopsy before Tammy is buried in Utah, and he receives a $430,000 life insurance payout.
I did see Chad that morning, and I don't know how he was grieving, if he was. I do know that he didn't show a lot of emotion.
Honestly, I think if I were 49 years old and my wife died unexpectedly at night, I would have asked for an autopsy just to see if there was some medical reason that might be passed on to my children or whatever. But I don't know why that wasn't done. I think that is very unusual and causes suspect.
It seems like everywhere Lori is, people are either dead or missing.
Yeah. Kay Woodcock and her brother Charles were pretty close. They shared a lot of things, including his online passwords.
I worked for him a little bit, so he gave me all of that information.
In a way, it helped jumpstart an investigation into what happened, correct? You saw some things on a computer?
Yes.
And what did you see?
I saw emails. That email account was linked to the Amazon account. Lori was ordering from the Amazon account still. So I clicked on those and boom, there I see the address they're at in Rexburg, Idaho. Apartment number, everything.
The online information that Kay finds is key because now we have an address to where Lori is and a door for the cops to knock on. It also reveals something else. Lori purchases a ring on Amazon under Charles Vallow's account, a wedding ring, and it is this ring that turns up in her wedding photos to Chad Daybell.
How does a mother who, up until seemingly a few months ago, loved her children, seemingly would do anything for her children, how does she do a 180 like that?
I think that she and Chad together have just, you know, that like they just feed off of each other. I know she knows right from wrong.
Just admit that, Chad.
And the notoriety.
Just admit that, Lori. This is nothing about religion. There's no way you can make me believe that in their heart, they honestly believe this BS. One morning, you're going to wake up and you've got to look at yourself in a mirror and say, oh my God, what have I done?
That day is coming sooner than Lori and Chad know.
On November 5th, Lori and Chad are on the beach getting married. But police are methodically uncovering evidence that suggests foul play. And it all ties back to the newlyweds and Lori's brother, Alex. Evidence like that ring on Lori's finger. You see, the receipt from Amazon shows that it was purchased before Chad Daybell's wife, Tammy's death.
After the wedding, the couple returns to Rexburg, Idaho, but the honeymoon is officially over the moment detectives show up to conduct that welfare check requested by the grandparents.
And that's when things really started getting weird.
Detectives speak to Lori's brother Alex and Chad. According to police, even though Chad had just married Lori, he acted like he didn't know her very well.
I asked Mr. Daybell for Lori Vallow's phone number, and he stated he didn't have it. I found it suspicious because I knew that they were married 2 weeks prior to my contact with Mr. Daybell.
Brother Alex says JJ is fine and with grandparents in Louisiana. Of course, that is a lie.
I told Mr. Cox that was unlikely because Kay was the one who originally called in the welfare check.
This shell game being played by Lori, Chad, and Alex is designed to distract and deceive. And to a certain extent, it's actually effective because as the clock keeps on ticking and time goes on, it's less and less likely that these children are ever going to be seen again.
I am Sebastian Salas. I am the owner of A Chapel of Love. I have personally officiated over 100,000 weddings, and I booked the wedding of Alex Cox and Zulema Pastenes.
Zulema is a spiritual woman and life coach who claims that her clients will learn that there's a divine power working magic in their lives.
Zulema was the one that coordinated and paid for everything. It was all Zulema.
At the chapel, Alex demonstrates a little bit of magic himself, making his last name disappear and taking on the last name of his new bride.
Alex took Zulema's last name. It was pretty funny, I'm not gonna lie. I have never seen that. That was the first time I'd ever seen a groom take the bride's last name.
This is an amateurish attempt by this guy to get the police off his trail, essentially. He's adopting the name of somebody else because it's going to be tougher for the police to track him down. So in his mind, what he's doing is he's erasing his tracks. This ceremony was about as romantic as a trip to the DMV.
Ceremony lasted about 3.5 minutes. Alex was quiet, wasn't very involved in the process, and Alex wasn't too eager to add anything onto his package, like flowers for his bride, or even have a picture taken of his wedding.
I just wanted simple, short and sweet, get married and be out of here.
The couple returns to Arizona, where the newly minted Alex Pistenes begins his new life. Meanwhile, Chad and Lori are secluded in Hawaii when they get a call from their friend Melanie Gibb. Now, Melanie has questions and Melanie wants answers. So she comes up with this idea to call Lori and record her and get her to admit that she asked Melanie Gibb to lie. The audio from that phone call is later released by authorities.
Hello, sweet Melanie.
Hi, Chad. Hey, Lori.
Melanie's a little awkward. She doesn't know how to confront Lori, but she says, hey, I want to talk to you about what you asked me to do the other day. I want to talk to you about that lie.
Well, I was wondering why you told the police why he was with me.
I just needed to have somebody so I wouldn't have to tell them where he really was, because they were going to tell Kay where he is.
Is JJ safe?
He is safe and happy.
In the phone call, you get a little bit of insight into Lori's world. You're either for her or you're against her. And once Melanie Gibb starts questioning Lori, Lori puts her sort of in this category. You're against me.
Never had any idea that you would be the person of all people to turn me. I cannot believe
I am
it.
asking questions, and I am concerned for you. That is what somebody does when they care.
You don't sound like you're concerned. You sound like you're accusatory. You do not sound concerned. You sound pissed off.
Rexburg police at this point take a trip down to Utah to this cemetery where they're going to exhume the body of Tammy Daybell. They're in the process of re-examining everyone and everything with a connection to Chad.
It was kept quiet. It wasn't a media circus. It was very quiet. Our crews here at the cemetery were here at 6:30 in the morning. There were no onlookers, with the exception of a dozen people from the attorney's office, Rexburg Police Department, several people from the coroner's office. Everything was photographed, and believe it or not, Tammy was back and buried within 6 or 7 hours that same day. It's interesting that Tammy used to sell cemetery plots out here and keep the records of the cemetery, and now we're here doing an interview. It's kind of mind-boggling if you really want to think about it a little bit.
One day after the exhumation, there's a 911 call, and once again, it involves Alex Cox.
911, where is your emergency?
I have a older male here named Alex. I think he's passed out. It's really bad. Come upstairs, in the bathroom.
What is your emergency?
I have a older male here named Alex.
Kings behind Chad's house.
It allows investigators to understand where that phone was traveling and then extrapolate from there. Now, you can't say this was Alex the entire time with this phone. You don't know that for certain. But when you start adding it up, you say, this is his phone going from place to place. Then the phone goes back to his apartment. And for investigators, it leads in others to say, who else could have done this? You don't know for sure, but you are sort of making that extrapolation.
Tylee, the last she's seen is on September 8th. She disappears. Alex goes over to the apartment early morning hours of September 9th.
This evidence is fascinating because it's the only time that Alex's phone is at any period in time in Lori's apartment between the hours of midnight and 6 a.m. Then at about 9:30, the phone pings from Chad's property towards the East End.
Then there were the text messages from Chad Daybell at around this same time, correct?
Right. According to the affidavit, a short time perhaps after Alex had left the property, Chad then texts his wife, Tammy Daybell, saying, hey, there's something interesting going on back by the pet cemetery. There was a raccoon, and I had to end up shooting it, and then I buried it in the pet cemetery. He also mentions burning some stuff in the fire pit. I think he made an excuse that it was going to get wet or whatever, and he wanted to get rid of it.
Was there ever a raccoon discovered buried on Chad Daybell's property?
No.
Let's talk about Lori. About 2 weeks later, September 22nd. What is she saying, Ryan, to her friends at this point about her children?
Well, she's talking about JJ. Right, and this becomes key when you talk about zombies in this context. It relates to the beliefs that Lori and that Chad hold as part of this new church called the Church of the Firstborn. Zombies are these people who are always considered to have dark spirits.
They were no longer seen as human beings. They were seen as zombies.
And so what that does is it tees the ball up in her mind, expressing to other people that these kids are now bad, and that who they were, who Tylee was, who JJ was, are not anymore.
She's saying her kids have been possessed.
Right.
Her kids are possessed. Right. Maybe look at it this way, that they have created a different reality.
On September 22nd, that very day that Lori was complaining to her friend, something happens. Alex comes over, yes?
Alex comes over to the apartment. He takes JJ. He has him for a while, brings him back early that evening. There were house guests there. And so the next day, the house guests get up and there's no JJ there. So they say to Lori, hey, where's JJ? And Lori allegedly tells the house guests that JJ was acting up. So Alex came back over and took him back in the middle of the night. And then JJ is never seen again.
And in this particular story, investigators were able to use Alex's phone again to retrace where he actually went during that period of time.
Alex is only seen from his phone in the month of September as being on Chad Daybell's property 4 times. 2 times, he's indoors, inside the property. But on the 9th and the 23rd of September, he's outside in the backyard, according to that phone signal.
And those are the only times.
Yep. I think one thing that makes this case difficult for investigators is it's hard to know exactly who did what. The signals will tell you where certain devices were, but what's been probably very difficult for investigators, and especially prosecutors in this case, and when people look at this and say, well, why aren't there murder charges? Because you don't know exactly who did what. Who was involved in actually laying hands on these children?
That search warrant was executed at Chad Daybell's house. What did they find?
Today, the Rexburg Police Department has conducted a search warrant in the residence of Chad Daybell.
I wanted to kind of go through what happened on June 9th. That search warrant was executed at Chad Daybell's house. What did they find?
The FBI, they gridded off these areas and they start peeling away layers. This is how you do this. You just don't start digging. It's almost like an archaeological dig to a certain extent.
They removed some topsoil that was right underneath the sod, which revealed a human skull.
Human remains that were later ID'd through dental records that they matched Tylee.
And incredibly, while all this digging is going on, Ryan, Chad Daybell is there initially.
While the search effort is happening, he's actually there watching it in real time on the driveway in his car. And according to police reports, he's just sort of there continuously the whole time watching it happen. Then at one point, he moves the car across the street to his daughter's property, watches from there. And then once the remains are found, he decides that's a good time to go for a drive and literally pulls off and starts driving. Obviously, police think otherwise, and they pull him over and arrest him. But when you think about that, this is all happening in real time, and he is sitting there watching it happen and then leaves as the remains are found. You have to think those investigators were like, well, 2 and 2 equals 4 here. We know why he's leaving.
I don't think he has any emotional connection at all what they were doing in the backyard. I think he's thinking, I'm in trouble.
I gotta get out of here, I gotta run, I gotta do something, I feel remorse, I feel emotion, nothing.
Yeah, but antisocial personalities don't think through all that because they don't have any guilt. You know, it's like he thinks he's slick. And that basically, okay, you found these bodies here, now prove that I killed them. And that's, you know, that is where we are at this point.
How sure were they at that point that when they went digging, they were going to find those children?
I think they thought they were on the money. And another reason is I think they had totally exhausted that these kids were someplace else. They clearly were not with the grandparents in Louisiana. They clearly were not with friends in Arizona or another location in Idaho. And that this just made the most sense because, just let's face it, Chad and Lori both have basically tried to snow the police, you know, deny, and then come up with all these, in my view, ridiculous stories like Tylee is at BYU, Idaho. I mean, you can check that in 5 minutes, you're from law enforcement. It shows you sort of the unsophistication, but perhaps arrogance on their part, that they think they could pull this off.
I'm curious because you talk about Chad and his antisocial behavior. That's one person. Now you have Lori, capable of being a part of this, and Alex as well. How unusual is it that you would have 3 people capable of doing something that is unthinkable to almost every human being when it comes to children especially?
They take on this attitude that we're superior to everybody else, and we live in a different reality, and the world's going to change. I mean, if they think the world's going to end and there's going to be a second coming and, you know, they're going to be the king and queen of England after the rest of us disappear, it's such a bizarre and such a high-risk thing to do.
Do you see murder charges coming?
I'm surprised they haven't come, but I think the juries are going to look at these two and say, you two are the zombies, not these kids.
The only issue I have with that is prosecutors bring cases that they think in good faith that they can prove. So even if everything looks like a murder charge, they're not going to bring it unless they think they can prove it. The biggest mystery in this case is who did it? If you believe that one of these 3 people killed these children, who killed which child? How did they actually do it? So if you have Chad and Lori right there, will you be able to prove to the jury that Chad definitively killed Tylee? Not Lori, not Alex. Did Chad do it? Or did Lori do it? Or did Alex do it? That, I think, could set up some problems for the prosecutors. So while I think there could be murder charges in the future, I wonder if they're looking for something more right now to try to figure out how can I pin this on that person based on the evidence I have.
If you lay out all of this behavior we've talked about today, I will tell you, working homicide cases for 30 years, it's pretty darn compelling.
So what's Lori doing as investigators are digging up Chad's backyard? She's picking up the phone. It was a year ago this month when ABC News went to Idaho with JJ's grandparents. Larry and Kate pull up in front of Chad's house.
You see all this open space? What if JJ's right over there?
And that actually turned out to be a premonition. Larry was right. That was almost exactly where his grandson's body would be found almost 4 months later. So as the police and the FBI are digging up Chad's property, guess who calls Chad from jail? It's Lori.
This call is subject to recording and monitoring. Hello?
This is a fascinating phone call to listen to. You know, it's just this bizarre disconnect between this flighty conversation and the worst scene that could possibly happen outside.
Are you okay? No, they're searching property.
And that search would ultimately reveal the bodies of JJ and Tylee.
They found Tylee in parts. She had been burned. And then they find JJ. He's wrapped in duct tape and he's bound from one elbow to the other.
Are they in the house? No, they're out in the property.
They're talking between the lines. They know they're being recorded. They're trying to communicate with each other.
Are they saving stuff again? They're searching. Logical. Yeah. So we'll see what transpires. Okay.
Let's think about what Chad said. This odd choice of words. We'll see what transpires. Is that how someone would react if they had nothing to hide?
The FBI and the police show up at your house and they're digging holes in your backyard and somebody calls you, or you could be saying things like, the police are here searching my land. I can't believe they're here. Why are they here? What are they doing here? You hear Lori, her only concern is Chad.
She asks him if he wants her to pray. She wants to know what she can do to help him. He tells her to call their lawyer.
What can I do for you? I would call Mark, just talk with him. I love you. Should I try to call you later? I don't know. You can try, yeah. I'll reach if I can. Okay. I love you, and we'll talk soon. Okay, baby. I love you. Okay. Love you. Good night.
That may have been the couple's last phone call. Moments later, Chad is arrested.
After JJ and Tylee's bodies were identified, Lori's sister released this statement. We have prayed for the truth to come to light, but we never thought it would look like this. Tylee and JJ are completely irreplaceable in our family. There are no words that can capture this loss. Words are just inadequate. Our family will never be the same.
Chad prophesied that the world was going to end in July of 2020. You have to wonder how Lori feels now that Chad's prediction didn't come true.
The desertion charges against Lori were dropped once the children's bodies were found, but she is still facing other charges.
As of this moment, no murder charges have been filed against either Lori or Chad.
At the end of the day, you want justice. They seem like they would brighten the world, you know, when you look at their pictures. Just for their sake, you hope and pray for justice in this case.
We should note that Lori and Chad Daybell are now scheduled to face a jury in July. 2 felony charges allege that they worked to destroy and conceal evidence. Both have pleaded not guilty.
And Lori Daybell also pled not guilty to contempt of court charges for not producing her children or revealing where they were. And that is the heart of this story, those 2 children, JJ and Tylee.
And I know you're going to stay on this, Amy. And that is 2020 for tonight. From all of us here at ABC News, thanks for watching. I'm David Muir.
And I'm Amy Robach. Have a good night.